Alright then, welcome, all you who are viewing this. My name is Sean Shea Premack, and today we will be going over the importance of coral reef preservation. Let's begin. So, some important things to know, or that you're going to learn about, is the importance of the coral reef for our planet, its role, what it's about, and why you shouldn't overlook it. What's causing coral reefs to die out right now, and what we can do to help try and prevent more decay. So, start off, what are coral reefs and what is their role in our planet? So, coral reefs are big structures underwater that are made of the skeletons of invertebrates that are called coral. They are found in places like Australia with the famous Great Barrier Reef, places off of Florida, and other places, warm currents like Japan. They are found on the equator, near the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. Is the most diverse ecosystem on the planet. They house about 25% of all marine life, that use the coral for safety from predators or a place to live because of the food it could provide. Um, Coral reefs have also been very important to humans besides providing a place for much of the marine life. Um, they include tourist spots because they are beautiful sites that draw in lots of people who are um, very interested in seeing these colorful underwater ecosystems. And are also some parts of coral are used to help scientists treat cancer. Um, However, despite all the good it brings, the coral reefs have been dying off because of certain actions, both from the environment itself and from the actions we make without giving much thought about, because they are part of our everyday lives. Things uh, like the carbon emissions and environmental conditions that will hurt the coral reefs, which I'm about to get into. So the first factor we're going to talk about is predation. Um, Predation is the action of one organism known as the predator eating another organism that serves as the prey. Many animals do eat the coral, which is living. I need to stress is the coral is an actual living organism. The living organism of coral is referred to as the polyp, which lives on the skeletons of the skeletons that you will mostly see on the outside. A lot of the organisms that prey on the coral polyps include sea stars, crabs, and fish. And if any of these organisms start to rise in population, which we would call an invasive species, um, they could wipe out coral reefs because there wouldn't be enough in the environment to keep these species in check. So, yeah. Alright, next one. So the next thing we have are abiotic and biotic factors. Abiotic factors are the non-living elements that are both physical and chemical, while the biotic factors are organisms that are either living or once were living. Um, Very important biotic factors include minerals from dead organisms, which are important for the growth of coral, and also crustaceans. Though many crustaceans might prey on coral polyps, a lot of crustaceans work on the coral reefs to help clean them, make sure they look good. So, important abiotic factors would include oxygen and carbon dioxide, because those two are elements that are essential to the life of all living organisms on Earth. So they're obviously very important to coral reefs. And the most important abiotic factor for coral is temperature. And this is because coral can only survive in a specific temperature in the water that ranges from 73 to 84 degrees Fahrenheit. They will not be able to live on temperature lower than 64 degrees. And if the temperature is even a degree higher or lower, this change in the water temperature would affect the coral's livelihood because this can affect the nutrition in which it gets, and it can also cause the coral to die out because of the living conditions. So, how can this climate be affected by the world? Well, global warming, which is the rising in the Earth's temperature that is brought about by modern day practices that bring out a lot of carbon emissions, which I will get into later. That has affected a lot of the coral reef so far. These rises in temperature throughout the planet affect the ocean as well, and right now it has caused 50% of the world's coral reef to die out. Many of the reefs to this day have lost their color, and you can see that throughout the world because of the process they go through called bleaching. And this is where the algae in the coral gets expelled due to changes in the environment like temperatures or even light. It gives the coral a very pale white color, like you can see on the left side. But an important thing to know is that bleaching does not kill the coral entirely. Even though it doesn't kill them, it can lead to death within the coral because it leaves the coral in a much more vulnerable spot. They start to starve. They can die of starvation, and they are just in general a lot more vulnerable, which you can tell by the loss of color. Right, so next got global warming is brought about by the excessive fossil fuel use. And fossil fuels are the natural fuels formed from the remains of once living organisms. Examples of fossil fuels are coal or gas. And we use a lot of fossil fuels, which brings up the temperature in the world, contributes a lot to global warming. We produce about 35 billion tons of carbon dioxide each year. It is scary. It comes from many common factors, such as driving cars that require fuel and eating meat from industries that mass produce livestock like cows. These cows produce a lot of carbon dioxide, and it contributes to climate change as well. Because since we mass produce a lot of these animals could have to expel a lot of gas because of how much we feed them, in order to kill them for meat. Lots of these fossil fuels continue to hurt our planet to this very day. They affect a lot of the environments like rainforests and just like the coral reefs. And since these practices have been shown to not stop at any time, the projected death of the coral reefs has amounted to say that at least 90% of the reefs will be gone by the next century. So the question here is, what can be done to help the reefs? Well, a very obvious approach that can be taken is that we can reduce our carbon footprint. And our carbon footprint is basically the amount of carbon that we produce based on everyday practices. Ways to reduce our carbon footprint can involve eating less red meats. That helps because you are not contributing to the meat industry that produces a lot of carbon dioxide. And also trying to find other means of transportation to get around places, like trying to drive your car less, maybe trying to bike places. Also, if you reduce the amount of electricity you use in your house, because a lot of that electricity comes from burning fossil fuels. But what's specifically been done to help coral reefs right now is that people have been submerging metal frames from places like train cars and like old abandoned cars, and I mean even vehicles like old war tanks have been submerged into the ocean because of the interesting fact that coral reefs have coral sticks to hard surfaces, and that is where they grow best. So you can see over here, um, you can see that like artificial coral reefs have been created because of dumping old objects from vehicles that are not used anymore. So that is something that could be used to help out coral reefs and make sure that they are preserved and can still go on. Thank you.